part of the world now. So that was just put in. I'm Paul Polinas, and I'm with Helen Day. I'm the president of the Friends of Maple Grove, and Helen is the senior vice president. So thank you for coming to Celebration Hall, one of the only cemeteries in the world with a concert hall. And so we're delighted to have a full house again. We're going back to pre-COVID days, it seems. So thank you so much for your support and for coming to our events and for becoming members. All our events are free, and we try to. We are a cultural center now. We're not just a cemetery longer. And that was what I was instructed to do 17 years ago when they erected this celebration hall. And I asked, why was it called a celebration hall? It's a celebration of life. And there's 117,000 people behind me. So we do have a big audience, and even a big audience. So they're going to enjoy the presentation as well. So let me go on. Every event we do is dedicated to someone here. And we have two events. We have the concert tomorrow, the Concert Quintet Americas, and then next Sunday, Mariel Pacific will come to sing again, and that special dedication is to Dr. Frank Gavlin. And Dr. Frank Gavlin is not too far from here, buried over there, the first ER doctor in the United States to die of COVID. And he's buried here. So his family will be here next Sunday when she sings. So our dedication for today's concert is our own original piano man. And that's Melville Ellis, and we have a photograph here on the window. Now, Melville Ellis was born in 1878, died in 1917. Now, Melville was a talented young man who was a noted pianist, composer, singer, actor, choreographer, costume designer, and stage singing designer. He was born in Phoenix, Arizona. He spent the earlier years of his life in San Francisco working in a music store and learning to play the piano. When he arrived in New York, he quickly established himself as a musical comedy favorite. He was well known for carting his piano around to film locations, playing his piano, as filming was done for inspiration. He played for the filming of the 1915 Cecil B. DeMille Carmen. This type of piano playing was called music offstage, and created the tempo for the actors to move with, as well as adding extra inspiration for emotions they needed to create. He acted in many musical extravaganzas and was a headliner with Al Jolson, and often played at the Palace Theater. He also performed with Fanny Brice, Funny Girl, Eddie Foy, and the Dolly Sisters, and many other performers of the times. He was also credited as the designer of the costumes for many theatrical and silent film productions. In 1915, he was working as a costume designer for the Ziegfeld Follies. In 1912, he gave an interview about color on the stage, and quote, "I always associate colors with music. The slow waltz suggests the deep blue, the purples, the greens. The swift march suggests the brightness of tones. The colors most positively strike you in the eye. You may materially help or injure a musical number by the wrong coloring. This is something which some customers and producers do not seem to realize. The coloring must harmonize just as music does. If colors express the emotions as we hear them do, then they should not express the emotions of music." 1915. This is a quote from April 4, 1917, the Evening Telegram. "Theatrical circles were shocked today at the announcement of the death of Melville Ellis at New York Hospital. Typhoid fever, supposed to have been contracted by drinking impure water in New Orleans, where he appeared in vaudeville, was responsible for his death. Melville Ellis was 39 years old." So, I'd like to... So, Helen, on that note, Helen... Yeah,
we're so happy to bring in local artists and musicians musicians and performers to create these wonderful events and concerts for you, and we will continue to do so. We've been really on a roll this spring, getting back into the swing of things, and bringing entertainment to this cultural center. So, as a friend said to me a few years ago, way before COVID, and she started coming here to all the events, she said, Maple Grove is the place to be. So we always remember that, and we remember her because she's since passed on. But still, we enjoy these events. And we're so happy today to present Michael Chimenti. All of his accomplishments, he's a composer and pianist extraordinaire. And we will really enjoy this performance, and we're still looking forward to it. So without further ado, please.
She's got a way about her. Don't know what it is, but I know that I can't live without her. She's got a way of pleasing. Don't know why it is, but it doesn't have to be a reason anyway. She's got a smile that heals me. Don't know why it is, but I have to laugh when she reveals me. She's got a way of talking. Don't know what it is, but it lets me up when we are walking anywhere. She comes to me when I'm feeling down, inspires me. Without a sound, she touches me, and I get turned around. Oh, she's got a way of showing how I make her feel, and I find the strength to keep on going. She's got a light around her, and everywhere she goes, a million dreams of love surround her. Everywhere. How's everybody doing today? I can't get over how many of you can. This is really a great surprise. I feel bad for the people over there because, hey, see, I know people from church are here, and everybody came. It's really great. Thank you so much for coming today. Isn't this an unbelievable place? I told all my friends I'm playing at a cemetery. They didn't get it. I'm like, no, you don't understand. They have this beautiful cultural center in the middle of the cemetery, and they thought that they didn't get it, but you got it. You got it. Now you got it. Now that you're here. So it's great to be here today. This is my show that I do. Why Billy Joel is the question that I always give to the audience. Why do a show about Billy Joel? Well, there's two reasons. Number one, I love Billy Joel. He's my absolute favorite. Always has been. And as a teenager, I took piano lessons as a kid. But as a teenager, I realized, I can play the chords and sing the songs at the same time. And I want to be Billy Joel. I want to be Billy Joel. The second reason is, the first reason is I love Billy Joel. The second reason is everybody loves Billy Joel. How many people here like Billy Joel? Right? How many people here consider themselves a Billy Joel fan? Yeah? Really? Are there any real serious Billy Joel fans here that know all the songs? You know all? Because today I will be playing the songs you know, but I'm also going to play some of his lesser-known songs because I want to tell the story of Billy Joel. But the ones you don't know, you're going to love them. They're all great songs. He is a great, great, great songwriter. But there's another reason I want to do this show. There's a thesis behind this show. The question is, how does a dropout from Hicksville, Long Island, from Hicksville High School, become one of the biggest selling musical artists of all time? Now, I'm not exaggerating. Billy Joel, just by the numbers, records sold and awards and all that, is as big as they come. He's up there with the Beatles and Michael Jackson and Frank Sinatra. And, he is one of the top. He still sells out Madison Square Garden every time he plays there. All right? He started doing Madison Square Garden years ago, and he said, I'll stop when the people stop coming. They won't stop coming. And if you've ever been to one of his concerts, you know that it is all ages. There are teenagers there, and there are people in their 80s there, all singing along. They all know the songs. So it's a good question. How did this guy become Billy Joel? How did this happen? So that's what we're going to answer today. Hopefully by the end of this little presentation about this, you're going to hear all this great music, and you're going to know a little bit about Billy Joel. So are you ready? You ready to get started? Okay. So let's start at the beginning. I'm going to talk a little bit first. Billy Joel was born in the Bronx, okay? But as a little kid, his parents moved to Long Island. They moved to Hicksville, okay? And his mother was Spanish, I think, and her name was Rosalind or Rosalinda. Have you ever heard a song called Rosalinda's Eyes? That's a Billy Joel song. That's for his mother. His father was Austrian. He was a concert pianist. And he had come to America when his father was forced to come here during World War II. Billy Joel's grandfather was a manufacturer in Germany, but the Nazis took over his factory. And the father fled here, and that's how Billy Joel's father got here. But Billy Joel's father, for some reason, was never happy in America. And unfortunately, his parents divorced when he was a young kid. The father moved back to Austria. And Billy Joel did not ever meet his father until later on when he became famous and he visited Vienna. And he wrote a song about that. All right? You see, it's all going to tie together, folks. It's all going to tie together. Okay. So here's Billy Joel. He's a kid, and he did take piano lessons when he was a little kid. He was very good. The teacher said he was good. But she noticed something funny. He would learn the lessons, but he preferred to make up his own little tunes. And he started writing. He would play for the teacher. She said, I didn't teach it. I read it. Oh, no, that one I made up. So he was writing music even as a kid, and he loved classical music. To this day, if you ask Billy Joel what's his favorite music, he will still say, oh no, classical music. And you will see how classical music influences his music. We're going to talk a lot about that as we go, how there are classical elements in all of his songs. All right? So Billy Joel goes to grammar school, goes to high school, and no, it was when he was in grammar school. I have my little cheat notes here. February 9th. 1964 changed his life. What happened the night of February 9th, 1964? Somebody was on the Ed Sullivan Show. The Beatles. And Billy Joel remembers, as a kid, being in front of that TV. So he had to go to a friend's house because they didn't have the TV, so they watched it. He was just like, and he realized, oh, boy, that's what I want to be. I want to be one of those guys. All right? So as a young kid, he started. So now he starts being in bands, like any kid, right? He knows how to play the piano, so he starts playing with bands and making up bands, and he starts writing songs. He was in a band on Long Island, some people know. It was a pretty popular band on Long Island called, does anyone know the name of the band? No? It's called the Hassles. And they had a couple of records and some success, but not enough. Billy really wanted to be a songwriter, but he never wanted to be a star. He just wanted to write songs for other people. And he realized the only way that I am going to get any attention as a songwriter is if I put out a record of my own songs. So that's what he did. He met someone named Marty Rip. Okay? And Marty Rip made a deal with him. I'll publish his songs and we'll make a record. So they came out with this record. This was the first record. I know that, can you see them? You can see it. This one was called Cold Spring Harbor. Okay? Because Billy loved Long Island. Okay? So Cold Spring Harbor. Now there were two problems with Cold Spring Harbor. Number one, Marty Rip was a ripoff. Okay? Billy signed a contract with this guy and basically gave away all the publishing rights. Billy was so anxious to put out a record, he didn't know what he was signing, and the guy kept all the money. All right? The other problem with the record was it had a technical problem. All right? When they recorded it and they made the master record, it was too slow. Now, what happens if you record it too slow? What's going to happen when you play it back? It's too fast, right? Because you recorded it slow. Now you play it back. So that first song that I just played, "She's Got Away," that's the first song on the album, Cold Spring Harbor. So Billy was all excited. He calls up all his friends, "Come over to my house." He got the first copy of the record, right? He's got all his friends around. He puts the record on, and this is what they hear. She's got a way about her. I don't know what it is. I know that I can live without her. She's got a... He sounded like Alvin and the Chipmunks. And the story goes that Billy, in his nice way, he can be a little rough guy sometimes, he took the record and he threw it out the window. He was, needless to say, he was very upset. So he didn't know what to do. He's got this lousy contract. He's got this record that's screwed up. Nobody's going to buy it. So he decided that him and his wife were going to go out to California. We need to get away and figure out what we're going to do. Goes out to California, and his wife gets a job at a piano bar. And she gets him a job as the piano player. So he starts playing this piano bar. And, and of course, he was great, and people are coming up to him every night saying, what are you doing here? Right? What are you doing here? You're too good for this. And he's like, I know. But one thing Billy said that he was very happy about, he knew that no matter what happened in his life, he could make his living making music. So even if he had to play in a piano bar, it was better than, I guess, Xeroxing in an office. You know what I mean? So he was happy playing the piano bar. And the other thing that he said to himself was, no matter what happens, I'm going to write a song about this. All right? I'm going to be able to write a song about this. And he did. Okay? And he did write a song about it. It's 9 o'clock on Saturday. Regular crowd shuffles in. There's an old man sitting next to me, making love to his tiny hand. He says, son, can you play me a melody? I'm not really sure how it goes, but it sounded sweet and I knew it complete when I walked on the man's song, right? Okay, so on the strength of that song, Billy decides to start showing his stuff around in California, and he meets, or eventually meets, Clyde Davis. Does anyone know who Clyde Davis is? You've heard that name, right? Clyde Davis was one of the biggest record executives in the business to this day. He's one of the biggest names ever. He's credited, I'm going to have my little cheat sheet here. He's credited with discovering Janis Joplin, Bruce Springsteen, Whitney Houston, Tony Orlando and Dawn, Chicago, Aerosmith, Pink Floyd. He's involved in all of those people getting started. If you have jokes, I need jokes. Anyway, he meets Clyde Davis. Clyde Davis likes him. Clyde Davis takes him up. At the time, Clyde Davis was the president of Columbia Records, CBS. Brings him up, and I forget what they call it, an executives meeting or whatever, where they'll bring all the executives into a room, and there's a piano there, and the person, they'll say, I think this guy, we should sign this guy. Billy Joel comes in, plays a couple of songs. One of them is Piano Man. They all loved it, but the deal almost didn't go through, because there's always one stupid person, right? There was this one executive who, after, Billy Joel, he said, "What's the big deal about that song? It's Mr. Bojangles." I knew a man Bojangles and it's sort of the same, right? It's sort of the same. But you know what? Who cares? Are they singing Mr. Bojangles at Madison Square Garden? No. There's 50,000, 70,000 people singing Piano Man now. So I don't think it mattered that it sounded a little bit like... Well, anyway, he got the contract. Okay? He signed the contract, and they were ready to come out with the first album. But Billy already was doing concerts, and he was already going to start promoting. He hadn't come out with the new album yet. But he did a concert on a Philadelphia radio station and played one of the songs that was going to be on the new album. All right? And the guy at the radio station started playing this song as, even though it wasn't off of an album or anything. Billy played it live on the radio, and he started playing the tape. It soon became the most requested song on the radio station, even though his album hadn't come out yet. All right? In those days, I'm going to explain a few things. It's sort of like a little master class here. In those days, there were two kinds of radio. There was AM radio and FM radio. Now, there still is AM and FM. But in those days, AM is where you heard all the hits, right? 99X, WABC, WNBC, America's Top 10, blah, blah, blah. That was where they played the hit songs. FM radio was really where they played, like, the albums and the rock. WLIR was the big rock station on Long Island. So that's where you would start to hear about these new artists. So Billy was already getting play on these FM radio stations, and there was that song that this guy played in Philadelphia that becomes this big hit song. It's not even on an album yet, all right? But it is one of his most known songs from that time, all right? Let's hear that. your car and you meet your girlfriend in the parking lot. Oh, still you're in for the things you haven't got. But when in wrong, if you can't understand why the world is so dead, why you gotta keep in style and feed your head. You're 21 and still your mother makes you bed, and that's too long. Happy death will get you high tonight and take you to a station island. Happy death will get you high tonight. Just a little push and you'll be smiling. And that Captain Jack will get you high tonight. Just a little push and you'll be smiling. Do you know that one? Yeah? No? That's some knows. How many people know that song? I'm always curious which songs people. Alright, so you're pretty big Billy Joel fans here. Alright? Not bad, not bad. Alright, so he's got his first album out, and the song Piano Man is a hit. Alright? People knew the song. You remember when Piano Man was out, right? It was a pretty big hit song. So he did get some of that AM radio play. But that was it. That was the only hit on the album. Alright? So you know what happens with record companies. They get nervous. So what they did was they pushed him. They said, you got to put out another album right away. You got to have some hits. But he wasn't really ready with another album yet. But they said, you got to do it. You got to do it. So he pulled together every song that was kind of like his B-list. You know what I mean? And he kind of threw an album together just to put another album out. Here's one of the songs from that. Streetlight serenade, never sang on stage. Needs no orchestration. Melody comes easy. Midnight masquerade. Shots in the hero. Rising power. Who were celebrating. That's it. Nice song, right? Did you hear it before? No, nobody heard it. No, it was a flop. All right? The second album was a flop. No hits. Nothing. Okay? Even though the songs were, even Billy Joel's bad songs are not bad. That's a nice song, right? But nobody knew it. Nobody got it. Billy Joel, I heard him at a concert once. He said, I don't even own a copy. And I want to talk a little bit again about the classical stuff. Did you hear in that one there's a lot of little piano stuff? Almost like classical, right? He likes to put those little classical things in there. I want to play a classical piece for you. This is a Billy Joel song. When he was putting that album together, he had to put on a lot of stuff that he likes to call filler. All right? He had to just put anything on the album to fill the album. So he had this little classical piece that he had written. So he put it on the album. All right? But I want to play it for you because I want to show you how beautiful his classical music is. Classical music, So the album flopped. All right. So the record company says you better put out another one right away, and he said, "Slow down. All right. I'm not going to rush this time. I'm going to take my time, and I want to write some good songs." And he also decided to produce the next album on his own. Okay. And the next album turned out to be a little better. Put these down here. Oh wait, here's Piano Man. I didn't show you Piano Man. Right? With Billy's droopy-eyed face on the front there. I'll pick those up later. So the next album is now really kind of considered a Billy Joel classic. All right, the next album was called Turnstiles. This album might have some songs you've heard on before. All right, I'm going to play a little medley of a few of the songs from Turnstiles. Let me see if you know these.
They say
sleeping low. And life went on beyond the palisade. They all bought Cadillacs and left there long ago. We held a concert out in Berkeley to watch the island beaches roll. They turned our power down and drove us underground, but we went right on the shore. One night on Broadway, that was so many years ago. Before we all lived here in Florida, before the mafia took over Mexico, there are not many who remember. They say a handful still survive to tell the world now the way the lights went out, to keep the memory alive. Some folks like to get away, take a holiday from the neighborhood. Hop right to Miami Beach or Hollywood. I'm taking a Greyhound on the Hudson River line. I'm in the New York State of mind. It was so easy living day by day, out of touch with the rhythm and the blues. But now I need a little give and take. The New York Times, the Daily News. It comes down to reality, but it's hard to be 'cause I'm inside. Dark Avenue, so let me tell you that. Dark Avenue, Chinatown, all on the other side. I don't have any reasons, let them all behind. I'm in a New York state of Did you know the first two? Some of you heard those first two songs, right? So, Turnstiles. much better album, right? Any hits? No hits. New York State of Mind is now a classic, but back then, none of that AM radio play yet. Record company said, got one more chance. You got one more chance. We'll let you do one more album. No hits. We're going to have to let you go. All right? So he put out an album the summer of 1977. I will never forget it. You know, we all have these life-changing moments. I told you, I'm a Billy Joel. You know, we all get that one thing that we love. You know what I mean? The Beatles or Elvis Presley. Some people, it's Elvis, some people Sinatra, whatever. My life-changing moment came in the summer of 77. Again, that AM radio, okay? Elton John, right? All those guys, they would play on the AM radio. All of a sudden, I started hearing this song on the radio, this love song. I said, what is that? Who is that? It's the most beautiful. I really thought it was the most beautiful song I had ever heard in my life. And they played it a lot. It was a hit song. But I would try to hear the guy say who it was, and I never got it in time to hear who it was. So I was finally with a friend of mine one day from high school, Tom Delantich, and I said, and that song came on the radio. I said, there's the song, there's that song, Tom. What is that? That's the most beautiful song I ever heard. What? He goes, Mike, that's Billy Joel. I said, who? I didn't know who Billy Joel was. Who? Mike, Piano Man? I said, oh yeah, I remember that song. He said, yeah, that's Billy Joel. I said, wow, that is the most beautiful song I ever heard in my life. Do you know what song it is? Don't go changing to try and please me. You never let me down before. Don't imagine you're too familiar, and I don't see you anymore. I would not leave you in times of trouble. We never could have come this far. I took the good time. I'll take the bad times. I'll take you just the way you are. Need to know that you will always be the same old someone that I knew. Oh, what will it take till you believe in me the way that I believe in you? I said I love you, and that's forever. This I promise from the heart. I just want someone that I can talk to. I want you just the way you What would you say? A hit song? I think he finally had that hit song that he was waiting for. Now, funny story about Just the Way You Are. Yeah. Have you ever heard that one before? I'm not doing any partying. I'm sorry. There's no way. All right? No wheels on the bus here today. Unless Billy Joel wrote it. Maybe you like that. That song almost did not make it to the... By the way, the name of the album, what's the name of the album, Billy Joel fans? The Stranger. All right, this became Billy Joel's first hit album. Became the biggest selling album in Columbia history at the time. Then Michael Jackson came along and he changed all that. At the time, this was the biggest selling album for Columbia Records. He didn't want to put that song on the record. They were recording the song. In the studio next door, there were two female singers, and they heard them recording the song. They went in there and they said, "What is that? That's a beautiful, beautiful song." And Billy Joel said, "We don't know if we're going to put it on the album." And they looked at you, "Why wouldn't you put that on your album?" "I don't know. The guys in the band don't like it. They think it's a chick song. They think it's too schmaltzy. We might not put it on the album." The girl said, "You put that on the album, you're going to have a hit song." Her name was Linda Ronstadt. All right, so thank you, Linda Ronstadt. All right, for just the way you are. A couple of months later, to promote the album, Billy Joel got to play on Saturday Night Live. All right, so the world was hearing his music on the radio, and now the rest of the world was going to see him on TV. He played 2 songs that night. He played Just the Way You Are. He played this song. It's hard to do it at the moment, you know what I mean? That's a real rock and roll song. So he kind of proved that night that he can write both, right? So he had the most beautiful love song in the world, and he also really can rock out. And that was really the beginning. That was the beginning. Now Billy Joel was becoming a household name. That song started out, I want to teach you all a little bit maybe about songwriting a little bit today too. Because how do they come up with this stuff? Right? How does he write all these different songs? Well, songs don't always turn out the way they started. All right? That song started out a little different. Billy Joel wanted to write a reggae song. So he wrote this. You know how reggae goes. Come out, Virginia, don't let me wait. You got the liquor, stop much too late. What do you think? No. The guys in the band said, "No way." All right? His drummer said, "There's no way I'm playing reggae." And so, you don't throw a good idea away, though. So you change it. All right? So you change it into a straight rock and roll song. Now it's a classic, right? So that's the way songs happen. Come up with an idea, you got to be willing to change it a little bit. One of the most famous songs, I'm going to give you a little songwriting lesson now. Is that okay? If we digress a little bit? All right, we're doing okay? Okay. What's that? One of the famous songs on that album, if you know that album, is a song called Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. Do you know the song? Most people know that song, right? Beautiful, beautiful song. Now, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, if you know it, it's a long song. All right? It's almost like a little, I remember, same guy, my friend Tom Galantich. He said, come over to my house. He goes, I'll play you the album. I have the album. And when we got up to Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, I remember this. He said to me, he goes, wait till you hear this song. He goes, it's like a little mini opera. Because there's so many little pieces to it. How do you come up with something like that? Okay, how do you write? And somebody asked Billy Joel that, how did you write it? Did you come up with all that stuff at the same time? The answer is no. Okay? You start out what I like to call as the golden nugget. Okay? The little germ of an idea. The little golden nugget that starts it all. Billy was working on a song. Alright? He had like a piece of a song that it was called The Ballad of Brenda and Eddie. Alright? It went like this. Brenda and Eddie, I'm gonna get the right key, Mom. Brenda and Eddie were the popular steadies and the king and the queen of the prom. Riding around in the cars out there in the rain of the one. Nobody looked any higher. Every over here, the pop in China. We never knew we could walk on the man at night. Oh, Brenda and Eddie would always run out and smile. That was all he had. Because I had this part of the song, but it's not enough. It's not enough of the song. So he decided to take a cue from his favorite group. Who's his favorite group? The Beatles, right? Right? Now, one of the things about the Beatles was, if you know anything about the Beatles, right? In their early days, Paul and John wrote songs together. All right? They collaborated. They wrote songs together. But as the years went by, they kind of like started not getting, you know the way the story, they started not getting along, they don't really see each other that often, and they start kind of like doing their own thing, okay? But if you know anything about the Beatles, you know that they had a little trouble there near the end, but they made a decision, they said, let's put out one last album, all right? Let's really get together and really give it one last shot, all right? But what they wound up doing was, they had to collaborate a different way this time because they weren't writing songs together. So they go into the studio. Now this is the way Billy likes to say it. This is the way I wrote Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. I did it the way the Beatles wrote Abbey Road. You know their album Abbey Road, right? The second side of Abbey Road is not really songs. It's just little pieces of songs strung together. And Billy kind of goes, I always kind of pictured that they were in the studio, and John would turn to Paul and say, oh, John, what have you got? And Paul said, well, John, I don't want to listen to it today. Let me see if you know this song. You never give me your money. You only give me your money papers. And in the middle of negotiations, that's all I got with that one, though. And then John would say, oh, wait, no, I've been working on a song. We can put this one on there then. And now they're on a roll. So he gave a piece, right? Then they start going, together. Little pieces of songs strung together. Alright? So that's what Billy said he was going to do. Alright? So he's thinking of different things that he had. And he had another song that he was working on, didn't know what to do with it. All right, that song went like this. Things are okay with me these days. Got a good job, got a good office, got a good wife, got a good wife, and the family's fine. Lost touch long ago, lost weight, I did not know you would ever look so nice after so much time. Do you remember the days when you had the living dream? Making your moves like the Jackson type of you. Oh, come on, and the one thing so I'm going. Cold beer, hot nights, hot sweet romantic teenage nights. That's all we had it out now. But that's the middle. Do you recognize it? That's the middle of scenes from an Italian restaurant. Okay, so now he's on a roll. That's good. That's good. But he still needed something to tie it all together. Okay. Now where's that out? On the back of the Stranger album, there's a picture of the guys in the band at an Italian restaurant. Oh, I forgot to explain. Something else big happened with the Stranger. This guy here, this guy's name is Phil Ramone. Have you ever heard of Phil Ramone? Big. Cheat sheets again. Phil Ramone heard Billy Joel play at Carnegie Hall one night. All right, Billy had enough of a following that he was able to sell out Carnegie Hall. And Phil Ramone went up to Billy after and said, I want to produce your next album. He said, because you're not getting the right sound. He goes, and I want to capture that raw sound that I heard on the stage tonight. Phil Ramone produced the Carpenters, Celine Dion, Bob Dylan, Chicago, Aretha Franklin, on and on. He produced all kinds of, so he really was one of the best producers in the business. All right? So here we are, scenes from an Italian restaurant. The story goes that Billy went into a restaurant, and like he said, it really happened, I don't know. And he said the waiter went up to him, and he said, what would you like, sir? A bottle of red? A bottle of white? Oh my God, this is the way I do this for song, right? The light bulb goes off. He needed something to pull the song together. A bottle of white, a bottle of red, perhaps a bottle of rosé instead. Get a table near the stream in our old familiar place. You and I, face to face. Bottle of red, bottle of wine. It all depends upon your appetite. I'll meet you anytime you want. In our Italian restaurant, he had the piece to put the song together. And that scene's from an Italian restaurant. Give me something. So, he's a hit. Alright? He really is one of the biggest going. What's the next thing that the record company says? You got to do another one. Now, how's he going to follow that up? Right? How do you, right? Now it becomes the biggest selling album, Columbia Records. What do you do next? What is the next thing? Will he be able to repeat it? Is the question. All right? You tell me. Was he able to repeat it? They the best part, so you got to get to that. The next album, that album was called 52nd Street. All right? Now Billy is starting to do albums with a little bit of a theme to each one. This one you can see he's kind of like holding a jazzy kind of a trumpet. So this album was a little bit more jazzy, all right, a little bit more edgy, all right, but it had a lot of hits. It had Big Shot, and it won the Album of the Year. It won the Grammy for the Album of the Year. It also was one of the first albums to come, I don't know what year, 1978. It's one of the first albums that was released in a new format called a compact disc. Oh, how neat. It was one of the first albums that was a CD. Okay? And again, hits. Yes, that album had a lot of hits. If you search for tenderness, it isn't hard to find. You can have the love you want to live. If you look for truthfulness, you might just as well be blind. Though it seems to be so hard to live. Honesty is such a lonely word. Everyone is so untrue. Honesty is all I ever heard, and mostly what I need from you. I can find a lover, I can find a friend, I can have security until the bitter end. Anyone can comfort me with promises again. I know. When I'm deep inside of me, don't be too concerned. I won't ask for nothing while I'm gone. When I want sincerity, tell me where else can I turn? 'Cause you're the one that I depend upon. Such a lonely word. Everyone is so untrue. Honesty is all we ever heard, and mostly what I need from you. You know, a lot of times they'll ask a songwriter, what do you write first, the words or the music? Right? In Billy's case, he says a lot of times he comes up with like a musical idea first. Now, this is very common. All right? Like, wait, I have to see. I'm not doing on time, honey. My wife is my timer. Because I'll stay here all day. All right, anyway. So a lot of times songwriters will write a song with like a fake title. Like this song, when this guy wrote this song, Scrambled Eggs. I just love to eat those scrambled eggs. story that Paul McCartney wrote yesterday. So Billy Joel, where is that song again? And now I lost my place. Honesty. When he first wrote Honesty, he didn't know what he was going to write. So he went, sodomy. I guess you don't tell that joke, but you guys seen it. Of course, the band, he said the band went crazy, and of course, whenever they played it, that's all right, so now he's on a roll. Now Billy Joel starts putting out album after album with hits on every album. Glass Houses, right? Still rock and roll to me, right? All those. This one was like a rock album, right? This was like an old-fashioned rock album. Then came Nylon Curtain, all right? Oh, we're living here in Allentown, right? What else was on that one? Pressure. Right? I can't play it. Right? This was his Beatles album. He spent a lot of time on this album. He said, I want my next album to be like Sgt. Pepper's. And he spent a lot of time working on this album. And it's considered very good. So his next album after that one, he wanted to do a fun album after Nylon Curtain. And he decided to do an album of doo-wop hits. All right? Sort of like a homage. So he wrote all songs that sounded like the Supremes, the Temptations, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. This is where Uptown Girl came from. That's supposed to be like Frankie Valli. Uptown Girl. All right, but that album was called An Innocent Man. See, he's got kind of like a 50s jacket on. Right? He did all that 50s and 60s music. I want to go back to the classical thing for a second. Right? One of the songs, now he's writing doo-wop songs, for God's sake, all right? But one of the songs on that album, I'm going to play a little Beethoven. He loves Beethoven, Billy Joel, okay? So this is a very famous little Beethoven piano. So let me see if I can play this. Does anyone recognize that little tune? Right? It's in there, right? Do 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 do. Didn't I say I wasn't ready for romance? Didn't you promise we would only be friends? And so we danced, though it was only a slow dance. I started breaking my promises right there and then. Here comes the Beethoven. Pay attention. This night is mine. It's only you and I. Tomorrow is a long time away. This night can last forever. Did you get the same? A little bit of the same tune? Alright, so he loves his classical stuff. Alright, we're kind of getting a little... Should we keep going? Where's Carl? Is Carl still here? Can we keep going? Yes. Keep going? Alright? Alright, a little more. We'll do a little more. I said I'll stay here all night. I love Billy Joel. Billy Joel, he loves the Beatles, he loves classical music. Who's Billy Joel's favorite artist? Does anyone know who his all-time favorite artist? He named his daughter after him. Billy Joel's daughter, you know her name? It's Alexa Ray. Ray Charles. He met Ray Charles the night that they recorded We Are the World. Remember We Are the World? Right? All those... They recorded that the night of the Grammy Awards. They figured everyone's going to be there for the Grammy Awards. And we'll go in and we'll record the song after. So everyone's meeting. So he met his idol, Ray Charles. And they introduced him. They said, Ray, this is the young man that wrote New York State of Mind. Oh, yeah. I like that song. That's a good song. I like that song. So Billy asked Ray, he goes, oh, would you ever consider doing a song with me? And he said, yeah, I'll do a song with you. And he says, so Billy had to think, now he had to write a song. What the heck am I going to write for Ray Charles that I can do with Ray Charles. So he said, what do we have in common? What's the one thing that they have in common? The music, right? And they both play the same instrument, all right? So Billy Joel wrote a song called Baby Green. And they both recorded it, all right? And Billy did his best Ray Charles. Late at night, when it's dark and cold, I reach out for someone to hold. When I'm blue, when I'm lonely, she comes through. She's the only one who can. My baby green, he's all I need. They sing all of the plays on the radio. They say they never had a blues, but they're gone. But only songs like these, they might easily those memories of holding on. I've come far from the life I spent, and I've got the scars from the times I played. Now I'm home, and I'm weary in my bones. Every teary one night stand, my baby green, coming home with me. Ever since this game began, my baby green has been good to me. All right, so Billy is such a big star now. Now he is one of the biggest rock and roll stars in the world. Okay? Now you got to think in terms of timing. Now we're in the 80s. All right? Now historically, what's happening in the 80s? The Iron Curtain was coming down. All right? And in Russia, they decided they start lifting restrictions a little bit. So they decided to invite. They said, we'll invite a rock and roll artist from America to come. Which rock and roll artist should it be? They asked Billy Joel. All right? Billy Joel became the first American rock and roll artist to play in the Soviet Union at the time. So it was a big deal. He took it very seriously. He went over there, he played these concerts, the people went crazy. They went crazy. They had never seen this before. And he went with his wife and his daughter. His daughter was a little girl at the time. His wife was Christy Brinkley. All right, Uptown Girl. And while he was there, he took his daughter to the circus. And they took him backstage afterwards, and they let his daughter meet the clown in the circus. And Billy starts talking to this guy. And this guy told him his life story. And he was so moved by this guy's life story. And Billy started realizing, these are the people that all these years have been our enemy. And here's this guy. He's just like this regular guy. So he wrote a song about it. He wrote a beautiful song about it. It's called Leningrad. Victor was born the spring of 44, and never saw a son who never had a father after Leningrad. Went off to school and learned to serve the state, followed the rules, and drank his vodka straight. The only way to live was drowning. The Russian life was very sad, and such was life in Leningrad. The children lived in the town and hid in the shelters underground until the Soviets turned those ships around and tore the Cuban missiles down. And in that bright October sun, we knew our childhood days were done. And I watched my friends go off to war. What do they keep on fighting for? Victor was sent to some Red Army town, served out his time, became a circus clown. The only happiness he ever found was making Russian children glad, and children lived in Leningrad. And so my child and I came to this place to meet him eye to eye and face to face. He made my daughter laugh, then we embraced. We never knew what friends we had until we came to Leningrad.